questions that were misconceptions about the virtual learning environment, and we need to get a lot of that stuff lined out and straightened out before we get started with our lining out our classes for our virtual academy. I've had a lot of questions about this is going to be just like it was last spring, right? No, it's not. Last spring we had the teachers doing things through Google Classroom, and we had no fault grading. In other words, your grade could not go down, it could only go up after March 12th. And this year, with the Virtual Academy and the Blended Academy, this is a situation where it's real instruction, and grades are taken every day. I know virtual and blended allows students a lot of flexibility on what they need to do, whether it's because of the pandemic, whether it's because of needing to work, whether it's personal preference, just wanting to be at home, or whatever it might be. So in the Virtual Academy, we were using a platform for curriculum called OdysseyWare. And it is a curriculum foundation that is approved by the state of Oklahoma, is accredited by the state of Oklahoma, and students do the work themselves on their own. We're not tied to a classroom. We're not tied to a teacher. You don't have a teacher on there broadcasting to you every day. You're not tied to a teacher here in the high school. So if you're taking English 2, your teacher is not Mrs. Cook. Your teacher is OdysseyWare. So there were some questions about, I said, what do you expect from Woodward High School in a virtual environment? And a lot of people were saying, well, I need one-on-one tutoring time with the teacher. That class is not tied to the teacher here at school. It's tied to the school through OdysseyWare. So that's that has been one of the biggest misconceptions about what the virtual learning platform does. We do have some boundaries set in place by the State Department on things that we need to do with virtual and blended. Let me go back and fill in some stuff. Virtual learning platform means that the student is not at school. They do all of their work online through OdysseyWare. They are required to test at the facility, which is in the old Oak Park School Building at the corner of 15th and Oak. Yeah, 15th and Oak. And this is Mr. Williams. He's our director down there. Back in the back, up in the corner, Mr. Foster. He is our virtual school supervisor. And in front of him, Mr. Warner, Coach Warner. He's one of our instructors that splits time between that facility down there. And Ms. Peterson, she's not here. Okay, she's also down there. So these are the people that you will see, and that you will run things to and be monitored. So, virtual environment, students are all on their own. I say on their own. They do everything through the OdysseyWare platform. They do not come to school. They do not come to campus, other than that facility at 15th and Oak when they finish a unit and have to take a test. The blended platform is a little bit different. Blended just means that a student comes to school for certain classes and they do other classes virtually. And those will change. Those will be different for each student. Some students might do all of their core classes, math, English, science, social studies, might do all their core classes virtually and come to school for electives. If they want to be in band, or they want to show animals with ag, or they want to, do whatever, be in quiz bowl, whatever it might be. Some students may do electives at home and come to school to do their core classes. Some students may feel like they need instruction in person in science, and they'll come to school to do their science in class, and they will do other classes online through OdysseyWare. It's tailored to each student. That's the beauty of the blended and virtual platform. We can tailor that for whatever students need. There is an attendance requirement from the state, and that attendance requirement for the virtual platform is that the student needs to engage every day. Doesn't matter if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, or if it's 8 o'clock, or it's 10 o'clock at night. That student must complete work and engage through OdysseyWare every day. If not, they're counted absent. When you exceed 10 absences, that can get to be a problem. So that's one thing the state has sent down to us through the attendance policy. Let's see. The other thing that students will have to do in order to, we still have to take eligibility through the virtual and blended platforms. There will be a pacing guide for students, and that's how we indicate where students should be at a certain point. So at the end of the 9 weeks, you should be here, have completed this number of units. As a semester, you have to have completed this number of units. And if you haven't, then that becomes a pass-fail situation. Talking about grading, it's still done on the grading scale that we use at the high school, A, B, C, and D, and the same grade percentages. As a parent, there is a place on there where you can monitor your students' progress. And Mr. Williams and Mr. Foster will talk a little bit more about that as we move into this. Students who are enrolled in the virtual and blended platform are students of Woodward Public Schools, of Woodward High School, and they have access to everything that happens here at school. So you go to the prom, they go through graduation, they can be on Quiz Bowl, they can be active in athletics, participate in ag, whatever it might be. Students are full students of Woodward High School, and they can still participate in all that stuff. The thing about that is you can't participate in ag virtually. So if your student wants to be in an ag class, they have to come to school for the ag. And if they want to, the Quiz Bowl is not a class. It's outside the regular school day. But in order to be involved in Quiz Bowl, they still have to come to the school building to be involved in Quiz Bowl for practices and meets and different things like that. Ms. McDonald, help me out here. I'm through my notes, but I had a lot of other things that I thought we needed to talk about.
Yeah, okay. We'll talk about the AP courses.
We have, I remember one thing. I've had a lot of questions about AP classes, and I think Mrs. Bloomer is going to talk about that, but AP classes cannot be done virtually. They have to be done in the classroom. This is Mrs. Bloomer. She's one of our counselors.
I am so for you to receive the AP credit, it has to be located here. And like we already said before, when it comes down to scheduling, the schedule is built individual for each student. So if you are an AP student that does honors, valedictorian, salutatorian, we will build your blended schedule around those AP classes. Okay?
All right, so just a quick show of hands. How many people are interested in the blended platform? Part-time at school, part-time at home. Okay, what about full virtual? Okay. Has everybody either filled out the online application or gotten one from the table back there? Anybody that has not?
Who has not filled out the online application?
Keep your hands up so we can get those to you. Virtual learning and online learning is kind of a new animal. That's why we wanted to have an orientation meeting this morning so that you can decide for sure that that's what you as a student or you as a parent want your student to do. It can be pretty tough at times. Research shows that the number one thing that contributes to success of a student is a teacher in the classroom. So virtual learning has come about here in about the last 3 or 4 years and has really gotten big since March, since all of this hit. We want to keep students tied to Woodward Public Schools rather than go to one of the statewide charter schools because they still have the opportunity to participate in Woodward school activities. If a student enrolls, for example, in an EPIC charter school, they are enrolled in EPIC charter school, not Woodward schools, and they don't have the opportunity to participate in Woodward school activities. So that's one of the reasons, and we were a little bit ahead of the game because we started this academy last year. It was a new program for us, so we limited the enrollment last year kind of as a trial run. And we feel like we've got a lot of the bugs worked out. We're still going to run into problems, and we'll fix those as they come.
How many of you are freshmen? Sophomores? Juniors? And seniors? Okay, you're a senior. What are you? Okay.
So another thing that we need to talk about is we will have quarterly reviews for the virtual and blended platforms. In other words, at the end of the first 9 weeks or at the end of the first quarter, we will review, and at that point, if you feel like that is not working for you, you can come back to the traditional school setting. It's only at the quarters. We can't go 3 weeks and then say, this isn't working for me, I need to go to the classroom. That's going to have to come at the end of the first 9 weeks, which is somewhere right around fall break. The only thing would be if it goes the other way, like a student, for whatever reason, an emergency or an exceptional situation needs to enter the virtual platform, then we can do that on an individual basis. I know I haven't covered everything. What questions do you all have? None? Yes. No. No, it's the regular school schedule. It's every school day.
So if the school is planned for a fall break, then they're fall.
They still have the same fall break, same spring break, the breaks are all still the same. And weekends we don't do school. So, good question. I said every day, I meant every day that we are actively in school, on the school calendar.
And then also for, like, say I need a kid to go to the band, but I don't necessarily want them to come in 100, people with them. Do they have to use the music at home? Like, the actual band, if they're not,
It is just virtual. Are you talking about participating in band? That is a participation class that has to be at school. There's no way to do band participation virtually. They have some music classes, but they're not actually instrument-based classes. They're more like music appreciation, music history, things like that. So if you want to participate in band, you have to come to the band class at school. Our band teacher does a really good job of social distancing and doing the things that need to be done. So that's a good question.
What about graduation? Like when you get a year when you
absolutely. They're Woodward Public Schools students. They graduate, they participate in all graduation activities, they participate in prom, any
We're
award.
going virtual.
I'm sorry?
We're going total virtual.
Yes,
Yes.
Total Virtual is still a Woodward student, and they still have the opportunity to participate in all of that.
If you go completely virtual, you are still a Woodward Public School student. You can participate in prom, homecoming, pep rally, whatever school activity that we have. You are
Like
still
school
our
pictures,
student.
they gotta do school pictures.
School pictures, yeah, me and you
Picture
are
day.
school pictures, yes.
Yeah.
You are still a student of Woodward Public Schools.
And Mrs. McDonald, as far as seniors goes, has a Google communications page for seniors that all the students know about and will know about as we move in. There's communications there. Anything that pertains to the senior class will be in that senior communications folder. So if we have a senior class picture at Crystal Beach, it will be communicated through that communications folder. Anything like that. But they are a full-fledged member of the Woodward School community and have access to everything that happens with Woodward schools.
Mr. Sunderland, I apologize. Could you mention the seat time requirement for our virtual students in terms of meeting with our supervisors?
I mentioned earlier that students will be required to come to the facility to take unit tests or anything like that. There is a seat time requirement, and at this point, we are requiring students to meet with a supervisor 4 hours a week, initially. Some students won't need that. And that will be up to these guys as to what students need to. That's a requirement that we have to have for seat time to be accredited, to have our program accredited through the Board of Education. What that is that's a check of progress. It's a check of assistance, I guess, for lack of a better word. If the student needs help, they can get it at that time. Mr. Williams has a math background. Coach Warner has a social studies and whatever background. Mrs. Peterson's an English background. What all do you do, Coach Warner?
Everything.
That's what I thought. But there is a seat time requirement, and that can be adjusted. Some students may only need to come in once a week for maybe an hour. But when they do come to his facility, the schedule will be set up so that social distancing is required. Yes. This is Mr. Williams. He's our alternative education director, but the virtual academy will be housed in his building, and he'll be working closely with Mr. Foster.
Several of you probably have done some things with Odyssey. How many of you have done something on Odyssey Ware? Anybody? Maybe 15%. Well, Odyssey Ware, when you get in a class, and we will put you in one class. When you finish the class, we'll put you in another class. When you finish that class, we'll put you in another class. It does two things. It gets you finishing with something, we can record that. You get a half credit or a full credit, depending on what that class was. And it's easy to track what your progress is. When you're going over several different classes, it's a little harder to determine where you actually stand. So when you're doing one class at a time, we need to try to get you on a schedule so you're at least getting 6 classes finished within the semester. If you're at the high school, you're enrolled in a 7-period day, so you finish 7 periods if you pass everything at the high school. If you finish and pass 6 things, it's not quite as much as you did at the high school, but you have the potential to maybe finish 8 things as well. So you might go over and above and beyond. Okay? If you're doing a blended, you're going to get some at the high school, and you're going to be getting something from the virtual. So if we're looking at like 6 classes, and you're only doing virtual, you need to complete about 35% of the class that you're in each week. 35% of that class stretched over the semester would be about 6 classes for the semester. If you're in classes at the high school, you might be at 25% per week. And the student will see that on their screen. You can see it. When the student logs in, it will tell them what percentage they are. It will show you what the grade is. So you can track that at home, and we will be tracking it at school. The students will have a lesson, and there are questions that come after the lesson. Lessons include videos they can watch where there is an instructor. It's not a Woodward school teacher that's doing the instruction. It's a school teacher that created the curriculum for Odysseyware. You have to watch the videos. If you're not watching the videos, you're not getting the instruction. And you will have questions. That's your responsibility to watch the videos. And if you're the parent at home, you have to make sure that they're doing that as well. In Odysseyware, it has a translator, so if English isn't your language, you can have it translate to a different language. There's a multitude of languages. Okay, it will read it to you, highlight it, and you can tell it to read that material to you. We also require you to have a notebook. I would suggest you get a 4-subject notebook so that it'll last through 4 classes. When you go to a lesson, the first lesson is going to have vocabulary, more than likely. There's a few that might not have some vocabulary, but most of them have vocabulary, 3 to 10 words of vocabulary that apply to that lesson. You have to write the vocabulary. I don't want you to copy and paste it somewhere. I want you to write it in your notebook. I want you to label it in your notebook what that lesson was. If it was decimals, you'd write decimals. And then under that, you'd write the vocabulary for that lesson. Notes beyond that are individual. You can take the notes that you need for that. When you come to take the unit test, and we back up, there'll be lessons, maybe 3 lessons, and then a quiz. And then maybe 4 lessons and a quiz, and then maybe 3. At the end of that unit of however many lessons, quiz, lesson, quiz, lesson, quiz, there's a unit test. That's the test that you come and take at our building. Any notes that you've taken, you have to bring your notes because that's your ticket, right? The golden ticket to come take your test. If you don't have those notes, you show up, you're not taking the test. You may have to go back and redo lessons. Because you have to invest something in it if you're going to get anything out of it. You can't just look at it and go guess the answers. That's the only way we can hold you accountable and for us to be somewhat accountable for what you're doing at home. Okay?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Okay?
What you're explaining seems to be the same thing that they do in your building.
It's very similar. Very similar.
So what if a kid shows up without the notes? You're not going to allow them to take a test at all?
No. That's a requirement. You bring your notes.
Okay.
If you're not taking notes, you won't have notes. You know, you just can't do it. And if you're doing a math class, you can't just click A, B, or C. You have to put pencil and paper, work some problems, and understand the concepts. And it's cumulative. It builds from one lesson to the next. Okay? When I was in school, they had correspondence courses, and you had a lot of work to do, and a lot of people to answer to, but you had to bring your work with you. We're asking, that's a minimum amount. Vocabulary is a minimum amount. Some of you probably need more than that. Not asking you to rewrite the lesson. I just want you to get something out of the lesson. There will be a spreadsheet or a Google sheet that we send out to the student email account, along with probably their login. Your login is going to be your student ID number for Odysseyware. When you log into Odysseyware, I'll tell you, but we'll send this out to you too. But if you get on the internet and log in odysseyware.com, it's going to bring you up to a login page that looks exactly like Woodward's login page. But when you put the information in that page, it's going to say student not found. Because Odysseyware goes all over the world, and you have to go to woodward.owschools.com to go to Woodward's portion of Odysseyware. And then your login and password will get you into the program. So your login ID is going to be your student ID number. Your password is going to be Boomers. For everyone's password is Boomers, but not everybody knows the person next to you's 9-digit student ID number. Okay? On your login also, it'll show your student name. First name and last name. We added a number between your first and last name, so you won't have to remember that number. It'll be 1 through, depending on how many people we have that sign up initially. Right now it's 1 through 60. So you'll have some number assigned to you, and on this Google Sheet that comes out to you, you will sign up for the days that you're coming in. So if you're ready to take a test, you'll go to the Google Sheet, and on a Monday, Wednesday, or Friday are the 3 days designated for high school, and there are 8 slots, 8:30 to 9:30, 9:30 to 10:30, 10:30 to 11:30, 12:30 to 1:30, 1:30 to 2:30. So there's 8 slots in each one of those spots. So if I was student number 15 and I wanted to come in on Wednesday at 10:30, I would put my number 15 on this sheet that's coming out to you on Wednesday at 10:30. And that means if I'm the first one that puts it on there, there are 7 other people that could come in that time also. So that means of the virtual people, 8 people can come from the high school, 8 people can come within that hour on either a Monday, Wednesday, or a Friday. Okay? And if we have 60 people, there's 40 slots available during the day. Times 3 is 120. So if we have 60 people, there's really only 2 slots available for you to come in. And the reason we do 8, a lot of you are wanting to do virtual because you want to be in small groups. I get that. I understand that completely. That's why I have 8, because whatever students I have already at the alternative school, I don't know what that number is going to be at any given time, but if I have 8 people coming in, we can separate. We can still separate and social distance. You can bring your Chromebook, or we have computers. Some of you might prefer to just have your own Chromebook instead of being on a keyboard somebody else might have been on as well. Okay? Coach Foster, anything, or Coach Warner, anything that I missed?
I don't think so. I think the importance is having to do the notes that get your test, and also making sure that you remember how to get on the website. And one of the things that I want to stress to parents, a lot of times your students will say they're blocked or they're locked out and they can't get in. They do that themselves sometimes on purpose. So what you need to realize is if they go into their subject and they shut their computer off in the middle of one, it will lock them. So you need to help us monitor that, okay?
And the other thing that goes along with that is if your students, and it might be a work issue, and that's fine, but if your students are working at 12:30, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, and they come to the end of something or they lock themselves out, there's going to be some downtime before we're going to be able to get that student freed up again. But obviously you understand that because Mr. Foster, Mr. Williams, Mr. Warner are not going to be monitoring things at 1 o'clock in the morning. So please understand that, there's going to be a little bit of lag between when we can get them unlocked if that situation occurs.
On the lessons, there's a pass threshold, and for some of you, you're not going to like accepting a 65, but that's the threshold. You have to make a 65 or better on the lesson to pass the lesson. You're signed up initially to get 2 attempts, and somebody asked you, it's just like Alt Ed. At Alt Ed, the students that go into Odyssey Ware, or at Alt Ed, or in Odyssey Ware, we give them 1 attempt on the lesson because they're with us. And after 1 attempt, we want to see their notes. We don't wait to see their notes until they're ready to take a unit test. But they're there every day, so we get that established, and we're getting it from every lesson, so they're investing the energies from the get-go. And I'm telling you, you guys have to do it, even though you're going to get 2 attempts on the lesson to pass that lesson before you go on. The quizzes are set the same way. It's got a 65% setting there. You get 2 attempts on the quiz. So 2 attempts in the lesson, 2 attempts on the quiz. When we go to take the test, you get 1. Okay? And if you haven't taken notes, the tests aren't easy. Any notes they have, it's open note. Okay? It's open note when they take the test. Yes. Mr. Foster kind of has a rule of 10, but it's going to be paced somewhat for you. But what I'm going to tell them to look at is your percentage. If you're not doing anything in high school, you need to finish about 35% per week. And it will tell you up at the top of your screen what your progress is on that class. If you're in 4 things at the high school and you're coming to us, then you can do about 25% per week. And still, that doesn't mean you guys can't do more than that. That's just kind of a minimum. Anybody else? We'll look at the overall percent at the quarter. 1 week doesn't determine anything. It kind of gives you a red flag. I mean, if you're at 10% after a week, there's a problem. If you're at 25% after a week, man, maybe you need to do a little bit more, or maybe that section was a little harder than some of the others. But you can recover from that. When you dig a hole and you're at 10%, you need to be at 35, or you're at 5% and you needed to be at 25. Now we're looking at some things that are a little bit more difficult to accomplish. We don't want you to dig a hole that makes it hard to get out of. And you got to start from the get-go. And right now, those of you that do this, we're looking at like Wednesday of next week. Because it's going to take us a little bit, because a lot of people signed up from here to the middle school, and then some people are deciding they don't want to do it, and other people from outside and they want to do it. So we're doing some logistics of getting people in and taking people back out. So, yes, sir.
On the note of taking in and out, if you have a child that's home and they're doing virtual, they get in the middle of the semester and they realize, hey, this ain't working out, they got 1 class that they just cannot get the grade of. Is there anything that they can do about that, or they just fail that semester since they can't come back to the regular school? You can come out to virtual, but you can't go back to the school.
They can go back at a quarter.
Okay.
It's my understanding that at the quarter they could go back in. So at the 9 weeks, they could go back.
But they also take that as a transfer grade. That's an incoming grade because they missed a whole 9 weeks of the in-person instruction in a classroom. Is that correct?
little bit of a different animal because we're working on credits and we want to get credits in their transcript. But when they finish a class, we turn the grade in and it's transcripted. It's not going to get transcripted in January 7th or something like that. It's going to be recorded when they finish.
And so, if students are going virtual this year, say they go through every class that are necessary, they want to come back to school and be, an in-house student as opposed to going at home. Will those grades transfer over, or will they wind up losing credit hours that they've done from that previous year? Or, how are you?
They will get credit for everything they do. It's just like a Woodward High School course. If they complete English 2, excuse me, they complete English 2 virtually and want to come back to school as a junior, English 2, that grade will come in as their grade. So you're not, Odyssey Ware is an approved state curriculum. It's what we chose to use. It aligns with what we do here at the school. So everything they do on Odyssey Ware is, you're not going to lose any credits. Everything is going to come right back in here like it needs to. Okay? Any others? Reason we wanted to have this meeting, oh yeah, go ahead.
So I have a question. What about those that are on an IEP? How does that work?
You would work closely with Mr. Foster, and there is a way that makes that work. There may be a case where a student needs to come to school to receive any kind of special services that they need for an IEP. If they don't have to, they don't have to. But if there's something that's required, we still will have the required IEP meetings. And again, that's a question kind of directly from Mr. Foster. He'll be able to help you out. In fact, go ahead.
I am a special ed teacher, so I will be handling their portion of the Odyssey Ware. We will make adjustments according to their IEP. We will also grade them as well. Accommodations will be respected and given. Their IEP teacher that they're assigned to will take care of their services that is required and their IEP papers in the meeting. So we will cover them from the beginning to the end with another special ed teacher concern.
Anything else?
What about absentees? Since you guys, like yesterday, she got assigned today, she got absent, she wasn't here.
We will, in fact, we couldn't enter absence yesterday because our student information system hadn't updated, and then when it did, but because of the virtual thing, that absence will not count. We'll take it out.
This ain't gonna start until Wednesday of next week.
That's the day that we will have everybody enrolled and they
Okay.
can start. We have, as Ken said, we have 60-some kids. Each one is assigned individually their classes that they need. So we are making sure who we have. We're working with the counselors to get the classes they need, get them enrolled, and we anticipate Wednesday everything will be live for them to get started.
And how do parents get on Odyssey to check their kids? Is there
I'm sorry.
how do you get on the parents so they can get on the Odyssey?
That will, we will communicate that to you. Parents will be able to log in. There's a parent login portal. You can go in, you can check your students. You can check your
There's
students'
a
work.
parent portal that we can send to you. We also recommend that you get their login information and you log into their site too, because you can get everything that's there as well, but you can make sure that you're seeing what they're doing if they're locking it up. But you'll have both options.
There will be as much parent access as what we need, so that you can monitor what your students do. The reason we wanted to have this meeting this morning is to answer questions like these. Did you have a question up there? Okay. Answer questions like these and kind of dispel some things and some ideas. Virtual is not for everybody. It takes a lot of self-discipline, takes a lot of self-responsibility. the students to do it. It takes a lot of parental involvement. And we want to set our students up for success. We don't want to set our students up for failure. And if a student, if you leave here feeling like, maybe this is not for me, that's not a problem. We don't have a problem with that. Or maybe you came in thinking virtual is what you wanted to do, and now maybe you're thinking a blended platform. That's fine. That's why we're having this meeting, so that we can, so that we can make you, or so that we can get you to understand exactly what all the virtual, and you're going to have questions probably all year. And we will be here to answer those questions. Mr. Foster, Mr. Williams, Coach Warner, Mrs. Peterson, the counselors, principals, we can all kind of answer some of those questions. We want your kids to be successful because your kids are our kids, and we kind of lead them that way, and we want them to do things that are going to be successful in life. So it's kind of the reason we wanted to do this. Yes.
On the internet and computers, is there a school supply computers?
Yeah, I was getting ready. If you don't have a device, a desktop or a laptop of your own, students will be checked out Chromebooks from the schools. There's a $30 deposit, or not a deposit, it's a fee for those Chromebooks. Also, we have a program through the State Department for hotspots that can be used if you don't have access or have any connectivity at your home or where you live. The one kicker to that is, in order to be eligible for a state-provided hotspot, you must be able to qualify for free and reduced lunch. So that's the one stipulation we got on those from the state, that they have unlimited data. You can connect up to 4 devices, or maybe more than that for the ones from the state. But those are not here yet. As soon as we get those relationships. Yes?
I got a question about that, because that seems to be not very fair. Because there are families in this community that because they were last year making a bunch of money, they don't qualify for free and reduced lunches.
And we understand that, and that's one of the things that we brought up when that program was initiated. People around the state brought that up, but that is a mandate from the State Department. We have no control over that whatsoever.
We wish we did.
Yeah, we are. Wish we could get one for every kid in school. Anything else?
I got one more thing I want to tell you about Odyssey, where I don't need the mic. There'll be questions, written questions, short answer questions. A lot of students just want to skip those. Skip over that. They don't want to mess with that. I'll give you a 0 on that. We'll reassign it. Just answer the best you can. We don't want you to copy something from the text and just paste it. Write it in your words. Use a complete sentence. You've got spell check. Okay? And sometimes for the high school, it'll say 500 words. I think sometimes it even says 1,500 words. We're not counting words. If it says 500 words, it means more than a sentence. Answer the question. Put it in good standard English and punctuate it, but don't count the words.
Mr. Williams?
Yes, sir.
You mentioned that we're going to have to check in with you every week. Whenever my daughter's graduating in the middle school, well, I didn't hear you say anything about them having to check in with you.
They're not. It's a little bit different environment, okay? And
The middle school and the high school, and the reason, this is the reason. Middle school is not transcripted. High school, we deal on credits for graduation. So we have to do things a little bit differently. I mentioned 4 hours a week. That's arbitrary. More than likely, and we've talked about this, more likely it's going to be 1.
yeah, logistically, if we have 60 people, we can't get 4 hours.
But the reason we do require a little bit of seat time as opposed to the middle school is because we're working on a credit situation for graduation. And that's why. Yes?
On the Chromebooks, can we go through one of you guys' program and check them out, or do we go to the high school? How's that work?
Can I talk
Ms.
about
McDonald.
that? Miss Burl and I are back here If you filled out the application and you have paid the $30 Chromebook insurance fee, we have record of that, and we have Chromebooks that we can, if you need one today, we can send you out with that. If not, you have a couple of options. You can pay the Chromebook fee online in your parent portal under the optional charges tab, optional payments tab, or you can see Ms. Crooks in the office and pay and get a paper receipt, and you'll present that to us, and you can leave with a Chromebook. And if not, you can make arrangements and come out next week at sometime and do that as well in terms of picking up your Chromebooks. In terms of the hotspots, the 200 that are coming from the state, we are limited on what we can do with that in terms of those only going out to the free and reduced lunch qualifiers. However, we do have a limited number within the district. So if you do not qualify for one of the free ones through the state grant, but you would like to see if one is available, please be sure that you tell us that before you leave. We have a number, I believe it's 34 that are shared across the district, so we don't have all 34 of them for the high school, but we have a few that we have access to if we can help in any way. Okay? Did that answer the Chromebook questions?
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Okay, excellent.
Okay, one of the big things that will make your students successful, will make the program successful, is communication. So anytime you have an issue, get a hold of somebody. We do have an email that goes directly to Mr. Foster. It's WPS Virtual at WPS.net. That email goes directly to him. I know some of you emailed that back during the summer and didn't get a response because he was not on board till August 5th. No, August 10th. So there was a period during the summer when those emails piled up and didn't get a response to those, but he's full bore now, so those will go directly to him and he can get those.
And if you need to email something to this structure, there is a message system on Odyssey. So the actual instructor will get that message if you need something on a question, whatever. They will be able to see those straight on Odyssey.
Right, there's a message section. That, if you're English 3, that message will not go to Mrs. Spicer. It will go to your English 3 instructor through Odyssey Worship. So, any other questions? Yes. Okay, we can make that switch. We'll just have to change it on your application. In fact, before you leave, where you signed in, change that. I think there was a space on that right limited or virtual. Just change that. Just change it to virtual. Okay? Okay, good. Yeah, we're gonna, I knew there would be some changes once we got in here and talked a little bit about things. We expect that. It's a fluid situation, and we're going to do everything we can to help your students be successful. No, you don't need to go out and know. Everything's the same except what option you chose, so we're good there. We'll get you fixed. Okay?
We do have the record if you filled out the application online. We already have that. If you need to fill that out, you'll need to fill out the application and pay the insurance fee, and then we'll be happy to get you enrolled and get your Chromebook to you. Probably be early next week when we can do that.
I will tell you this, our school website, the application did not jive well with our hosting, with our website hosting department. So we had to remove that from the school website, but there is still a link at the top of the WHS Facebook page that has that application on it, and it is open. Okay? Anything else? I know you're going to have questions the second you walk out the door. Communicate those questions to us. We will start scheduling classes today, and like Mr. Foster said, it'll be live and ready to go Wednesday. You will not gain an absence between now and Wednesday. Okay? So don't worry about that. Attendance, as far as that goes, you kind of get a break for 3 days. Everybody else is up here working and get to wait for Wednesday.
So, are we gonna receive the login and stuff like that?
How do we get the login information to them?
Mr. Foster, login information?
Uh,
Students will come to their student email address.
Right, it'll come, all the information will come to your email address. Just remember, as Ken said, it's your number and boomers. Okay? And we will send it out via the student email, but it is your number and boomers.
Do we have?
Boomers is all lowercase.
Do we have a link to Odysseyware on our WPS website?
No, I don't think so.
We'll get that added as well.
Okay. And when we send the email out, when we put the website on it, it should be a link as well.
All right. Good deal. Communication, communication, communication. That's where we'll be successful. Thank y'all for getting in this morning. We appreciate it. I know it's kind of a time out of your day, but we appreciate you coming in here and let us know if we can do anything.